Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for May 17th, 2024. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and also here are Ralph Kohler, who's sharing his screen, Simo Helston, and Scott. Go ahead, Ralph.
We are looking at issue number 82787, add responsive image field widget in form display for image type field. It's basically about adding a widget for responsive images on that form display page. And I think it was in needs usability by catch in issue number comment number 30. I also think this could use usability review, try to tag it above, but apparently failed. And yeah, let's just simply take a brief look what the actual changes are. Without the patch applied, on that image field, you only have the widget for image. Now you get responsive image. And that way, the options and microcopy look the following way. You have a preview responsive image style with the options available, no preview as the default and narrow and wide, and a radio button for progress indicator with rubber and bar with progress meter and a description. Yeah, that's basically it. Any questions so far?
I'm a little confused. I thought Drupal has had responsive images in core since Drupal 8. How have we managed without an image widget until now, a form widget until now?
Good question.
Yeah, it's been a formatter before normally, right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess I also posted a link in chat to a plain umami site. And there, I guess you'd have to look at media, since the article content type doesn't have an actual image field. But if you look at the image media type and manage display, I think Scott is right. There's a responsive image format.
That one.
So I guess in a sense, we don't need a specific form widget to make an image responsive. It's just on the formatting side, but
So what do we see if we save this with this element? What does this give us as an administrator? Is there something that we're not aware of that this is giving us when we're adding in an image now?
I guess it's mostly the preview.
While you're editing a node.
Okay.
Maybe you have to save the node, edit.
That's odd. I've saved it. I've set the responsive image style to narrow.
Try force reloading the edit page.
Nope.
Put in some alt text and submit hit preview at the bottom.
Nope.
And instead of the save button, can you use the preview button at the bottom? That doesn't seem very narrow.
Yeah, no, this is node render. This is not form display.
Yep, exactly. My expectation would have been that something is shown here.
Do we have a console? Yeah, I would too. Sorry, I want to debug. Sorry.
No console.
I wonder if the other image style works.
Why did we only have 2 selections? Why didn't we have all of
Mm.
these images, all these image styles to choose from?
Wait a second, and narrow doesn't exist on here.
But those these are not responsive, I think. I think responsive images are elsewhere.
Is responsive tied to breakpoint module, not
Oh, there it is.
image
Yeah,
attach? Okay,
Simon is right. Yeah.
thank you.
Also completely forgot about that. But still. No. Let's change to the different one. Do another force reload. Oh. That is odd.
What would happen? This is Claro.
Yeah.
What would happen if you use front-end theme for editing the node? Will that have some effect?
Nope.
Oh, and I see that Offer Shaw has joined us. Offer, are you familiar with this issue? It's adding a form widget for responsive images. Previously, there was only a formatter. Well, I guess we should certainly ask about this on the issue since,
Yep.
but in the meantime, we could also look at the microtext.
Yep.
So let's start at the top. So widget settings, responsive image, that I think is standard. The next line, preview responsive image style. Could we get away with just preview style since we're under responsive image, or would that have accessibility issues?
I think we need to have that responsive there because even we were just looking first at image styles that are different from responsive image styles.
Yep. I agree.
Would it be clearer to rearrange the text responsive image style for preview, or do we want to front load preview as it is? And Aaron McHale is also joining the meeting. Welcome, Aaron.
Hello.
I'll paste in again the issue we're looking at in the chat. So do we like the text as it is, preview responsive image style, or would we like to rearrange it?
I don't know where my raised hand is with the sharing right now. Somehow it's disappeared in the interface. So I just started talking, so apologies for that.
Go ahead.
I think I'm slightly drawn towards responsive image style for preview. Because you're not previewing the image style, but basically you're using an image style for the preview. So the other way around, it's a bit more clear from my perspective.
Okay, and we get a thumbs up from Simo. And a heart from Aaron. Okay,
It was
go
meant
ahead.
to be a thumbs up. I'm not sure what the zoom. I'm on my mobile, and the first time I gave a thumbs up, I don't even know if it registered. And then I did it another time, and you got a heart. So you might get a laughing face next time. Who knows?
Okay. And Offer posted a question in chat. We'll get to that in a bit. So yeah, I think I agree. I guess I suggested it just because it seems awkward to me, preview responsive image style. It's sort of like those noun clusters that German is famous for. Okay, so let's recommend responsive image style for preview, even though it's one word longer. And then the help text under there, is that even necessary? The preview responsive image will be shown when editing the content. I'm sorry, while editing content.
I think we could drop responsive, the word responsive, and will be shown on edit form would be shorter because when you're editing the text, maybe it's not shown because you have a small window or something like that, but it will be on the form.
Okay, so instead of while editing the content, you want to say on the edit form, and you want to drop the word preview because it's redundant.
No, I think responsive because the only like the preview image because the image, we just chose what kind of image it is for the preview. So we don't need to repeat the responsive word.
How about something a little shorter, like the style to use on the edit form? And it's, in fact, the word preview is a little problematic, right? We were trying to get it to work, and it's really the edit form, not the node preview, that shows this image style, we think. And I think that we should avoid repeating too many words from the label in the help text. So I would just say the style used on the edit form, if that's what it's actually supposed to be. Seema, would you prefer something closer to what it currently has? I guess you were saying that the preview image will be shown on the edit form. Is that what you were suggesting, Seema? I see you're unmuted, but I don't hear anything from you. Maybe you're having
When
audio
we say
problems.
edit form,
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it works now.
Yeah, so we could also drop the word preview. The image will be shown.
Go ahead, Offer.
I open it in Drupal with Umami, and I'm thinking that one of the ways we're displaying things is in like a media library in a gallery, and I just don't know if that would apply here.
Yeah, but before you joined the call, we tried to test this and we just didn't see it working. But
I have a link I can share if you want. Yeah, just make it public. Okay. You couldn't see the image gallery, or which part was missing?
The image isn't shown on the edit form. It's always just that link. We've in that case we've switched to the front end theme, but it's the same case for Claro.
Right. And I think if I'm understanding it correctly, maybe I'm missing something, but when we're using media, media is the one that managing responsive image.
Responsive image can be used across different entities.
Yeah, and we can also add it directly, probably. I'm saying I think this.
right, so on Umami, we'd be looking at media which have image fields, and then we look at the form widget for the image field on media. This patch would not make any difference for like an article node, which in Umami has a media image rather than, I'm sorry, media field rather than an image field.
Yeah, so the last link I sent, we see that image. If we remove it, you get the media library. My point, I think, is that is the preview we're talking about, right? In the
Yeah.
setting that we just discussed.
That's our assumption. Yep.
Yeah, that's why I thought like edit form might be confusing, because I think this would be a popular way of ending up using the responsive image. But maybe it's the same because
So the formatter is the same, whether it's on media or nodes, or user or taxonomy. If we put an image field on it, it would use that. This widget.
yeah, in Umami, the manage form display of image has default and media library, like two settings. Send the link if that's helpful. So if you click manage form display, sorry, if you could use the link I sent, it's directly to the.
Okay.
Yeah. Now here we see on top default and media library on top.
Ooh, interesting. In regards of the microcopy, it says the same pattern, preview image style, and also the progress indicator with rubber and bar with progress meter.
So presumably this is what they used as a model.
Yep.
In the what we saw before, it says responsive image. Maybe just Umami using something else. Is that what's happening?
This is
So
just an image style. So let's go to this media and change its image to this responsive setting. Because this is an image style, not responsive image, right?
Oh, it's hero.
You'll have to remove the image and then see the media library. Didn't look like hero, but
Yeah. And on the other hand, I would have expected that even without removing the media item, it would already use the different.
I think these are the two different options. I think a media library has a way to show the image preview. And here, I think it's that's the default one. But
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong.
in here, that would be also my assumption. In here, it should follow basically the responsive image style chosen in here. In that case, hero.
So if you're actually editing the media item rather than editing an article that links to the media, then I would expect the settings here to take effect. So try going to content and then media.
Media.
And edit something from there.
Oops. 。
Well, that sure doesn't look like a hero.
Not at all. Shall I remove it? And
Sure.
let's go with Corby again.
Well, now this is not using meat. Actually, I'm confused. This is meat. This does
We're-
use the library, maybe?
We're editing a media item,
There
and
it
as
is.
Scott says,
Okay.
you
It
can
is
put an image field on any entity type. In Umami, the image media content type, or image media type, has an image field on it. And that's where we're setting the form widget settings, and we're not seeing any effect.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem to be working.
That should definitely be noted.
Before this patch, before this issue branch, what was the what didn't we have in this display?
That option. You've had before, you just had image as the option, and now you have responsive image alongside.
That wasn't there before.
Nope.
There's
Oh.
a formatter. If you're managing the display rather than
Yeah.
managing the form display, you have the option of image or responsive image.
Okay, only specifically for the managed form, for the editor experience, that was not there.
Exactly.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
You know, now that I think of it, I'm not sure that we really want two different formatters. Like it doesn't seem to make much difference.
Right. In a way, I usually want to know if I chose a wide or tall image in the preview to have some reflection to it. Usually, I think.
So
At
this
least
is a
that.
feature request, not a bug.
Yes, it is a feature request. But I wonder whether it might make more sense to add options to the existing formatter rather than create a separate formatter. So when the responsive image module is enabled, it could add an option or two or override an option on the image formatter. But I guess I can't really make a recommendation there until I know how it's supposed to work.
I can see that in a lot of cases where there are different kinds of content types for specific purposes, and if they use always a specific style of like specific format of image. So for one content type, it can have a narrow image, and other content type, it will always have a different kind of responsive image. So then it kind of would make sense to be able to use different previews for different edit forms, so that the content editor will see already there how the image will look like. So, and on the other hand, the other formatter might be useful for managing some libraries or something else.
Following up on what Benji said, I think I think they somehow need to be connected, unless very extreme edge cases, between if I chose an image to display responsive image, let the editor have the same one. If I chose a special aspect ratio, lets the editor see the same one, as opposed to now you have two different places that 95% or more times you need them to be the same to not have any surprises. Where it seems like the feature request came from, we didn't have even that option at all to the responsive image, WebP, all that. And if it was linked somehow, we would allow that. Just having too much flexibility here, I'm afraid, gonna cause breakages and unexpected results.
Okay, and I think Scott was next.
My biggest gripe right now is that we're allowing a formatter on an edit form that has no context to view mode. So why does a content editor need to see the responsive image if they don't know what view mode the information is going to be presented in?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We at least need them to clarify what this issue is doing. The proposed resolution just doesn't answer these questions. Go ahead, Ralph.
And also, the longer I think about it, I'm not sure why you need that many options and image size, because basically what you get at the end is just that small preview image, more or less. And so having one fixed image format could or should be more than enough from my perspective. And I'm not sure adding responsive images is even necessary at all, the longer I think about it.
Yeah, I think that's what I've been trying to say.
No, that another thing, when I think I browsed Starshot includes, and it has focal point in there, and with focal point I think there is also the preview for different styles. That's, I think, image styles, not responsive images, but still. So maybe it's a contrib stuff anyways.
I think the risk that this is introducing right now is the process load for image cache. If somebody puts this in the media, then all media files are going to get thrown through image cache. And if somebody has thousands of images on their site, that could be a lot of load.
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what you're saying. If
So
we enable this.
If this is enabled in media and the media library renders everything through responsive image, then that's a great big process change for the media library operation. Somebody's editing and picking media and it's rendering, like it needs to render out, like if image caches haven't been rendered, then we're going to start rendering out all of those images.
Huh.
Or when something will get rendered, if it's in the breakpoint, I guess. Right?
I'm not sure that would be the effect, but again, we don't know enough about what this issue is supposed to be doing to tell. So, so you might be right. Alfred, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I'm trying to find which one in project we have sometime we use. I think it's a contrib module that really allow the editor to see the different options. I think it somehow has to do actually with the focal point. Maybe that's the one. But what my memory is like that the editor gets to see the image that was chosen in different aspect ratios. How would it be cut? And then they get to choose, or because that image would be used in multiple places on bigger sites.
And you think that's on the edit page when they're uploading the image and not on the preview page?
Right.
It's on that, like there is a link to preview link under the thumbnail. So on the thumbnail, you set the focal point and then you have the link to preview. So it opens up a dialog or pop-up or something like that. And there it kind of has side-scrolling list of all the different image styles.
Ralph, what happens if you click on the link based on what Simo just said? Above the image, it has
You
the
need
file
focal
name.
point.
Yeah, focal point has it.
But maybe this is doing something similar. So could you click where it says Corby.jpg?
Oh. 1 second. Oops, that wasn't intended. Oh.
But if you look at the URL that those pop-up windows are showing, it's not in any image style, is it? Just looking at the top.
Just an image.
Source file.
Okay, so I'd like to cut off discussion here. So, you know, clearly we need a better description of what this is and how it works. And we're not sure whether it's useful, whether this is something that should be handled during preview. There might be performance implications. So we need to start by having a better understanding of how it's supposed to work before we can go any further. So let's just leave a comment to that effect. Is there anything else we'd like to say at this point?
I shared the module I think that we're using in many projects. It's a contrib. And I think what that brings is the way we end up using images in bigger project there are different ways, different cards, different heroes. And in each one of these, when you upload the image, the editor needs to know how it's going to end up looking. And that's really like the usage we end up doing. And yeah, so maybe when next time we look into it, if we had bet, I think even the demos of Umami are not enough to show like, well, how would that affect it in more styles or how it might look.
Well, responsive image is still just applying a cache setting, so it'll just scale. Whereas crop will actually write anything focal point or image crop, which uses crop API.
Yeah, but my point here is more, I think I don't have it ready, but the preview that it gives the editor, not the actual, here it's cutting images.
I know what you mean. I do actually know what you mean too there. I don't have anything I can pull up and display to set up either, but I know what you mean. But that's more custom to that specific widget, like that contrib module has gone into more depth than responsive image does in order to do that. So to compare it, like, pointed out to them that the image, well, we're looking at a bug. I think that's number one is we're looking at the bug. We see the widget is functioning, but we don't see that it's actually operating.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we see the configuration form for the widget, but we don't see the effects of that configuration.
And the image crop module, that module, right, does a lot on top to make it, right, to make that UX better. But it as a crop tool, as that module versus focal point and the way that the two things use the crop points, crop corners versus a center point for focus.
Right, but what we're concerned with now is the user experience of these modules, not the effect they have. Yeah, we know they do something different, but we might want to reuse the user experience.
Yeah, I'm thinking I do have a concern with separating the display mode and the editor mode. Let's say this worked and it wasn't with a bug here. We could view things as mini and they actually being displayed as hero.
Right, that's the question we want to resolve. But before we can answer that, we have to ask the people working on this issue how it's supposed to work, because it doesn't seem to be working right now. So let's first get more information, and then we can ask that question. I really don't think we can have further productive discussion until we know how it's supposed to work. And Scott agrees. Ralph, did you want to say something else?
I also agree in that regard. The only detail I would like to add is in regards to the microcopy. That is something that could still be quickly discussed about the second part, the progress indicator. There's one detail that bothers me, and which is inconsistent between the terminology used on one of the radio button options and the terminology in the description underneath. You have bar with progress meter, and in the description it's just the progress bar is just referred to. So that's an inconsistency, and I would simply replace bar with progress meter with progress bar, and it would be way more straightforward and clear.
If we're talking about that text, also the thrower does display the status if it's ready or not ready. So it does display status, but it doesn't display progress. So there's also an error.
Okay, is that the same text that's currently used for the image widget?
Yes. So it isn't exclusive for this issue, but for core in general, for
Okay.
other applications.
So who would like to post a comment asking for more information?
Yeah, I could do it.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. And we have almost 15 minutes left. Offer, you raised this question in the chat. With the new reality of Starshot and its faster pace, how do we make sure it continues to keep UX standards? Since it's separate from core, but might bring popular contrib modules and themes through recipes.
Yeah, so anyone maybe doesn't have the context, DrupalCon just happened recently, where Dries was showing Starshot, which would have like 200 days timeline to be released, and it would have a bigger representation on Drupal.org side by side to Drupal core. Starshot would bring the concept of recipes and the ability to have ready-made sites or type of sites, because they bring themes, modules, configurations. And I just think that's what I mentioned in accessibility meeting yesterday. I can see how it gained popularity, and because it's much better experience for many people, most people. And as much as we're taking care of UX and all that, I'm not sure if there's something we can do or any process we can add to help Starshot keep accessibility, because I think it dives more into contrib world, which until now I think we're focusing more on core. Does that make sense?
I think it's experience builder we need to keep that focus on, not Starshot. Starshot as a recipe, sort of like the collection of other contrib modules, right? The collection of like adding in path auto and meta tag, SEO stuff, so that Drupal's more ready that way from contrib modules, right? Not just additionally adding in like 20 of the most popular Drupal common themes into Starshot, right? I think it's experience builder that needs that focus.
So the experience builder is basically the version of layout builder that's being developed, improved. So that
Right,
would
that's gonna
still
be
be in
part of
Drupal
Drupal core stuff.
core. And so I guess, so that will still be subject to the core gates, including usability and accessibility. And I guess Offer's question is really, what about the contrib modules that are being promoted by being part of the Starshot recipe? Ralph, go ahead.
I think it might be an idea, maybe over the next months, to take a look at each of those contrib modules for one meeting and just see if there are any pressing issues, and from a usability perspective mainly, and see if we could suggest any improvements and to make it a more flawless experience overall, because they differ. Let's put it that way.
Okay, you got a thumbs up from Aaron. Oscar, go ahead.
Yeah, I think my point here, similar to what I mentioned, accessibility, we're going to see, I think we will see a huge change in the way we look at things. If today we're like, hey, you know, core is great, right? Accessible, we take care of UX, it's all good. That's great. Like we have a way, a gate in a way to make sure things are up to a certain standard. When Starshot works, the recipes of Starshot, which is not maybe built into Starshot, but the popular thing, people, maybe it's going to be easier to have a blog post than WordPress, right? That's my thought. And why not? And maybe they're going to use paragraphs. So any other something that's really useful for that recipe going to become very popular in Drupal. I'm trying to think if there's something we can do that understand it's beyond experience builder. Of course, we should make sure anything in core, right? Because experience builder also supposed to go back in core pretty quickly, should be accessible. But all these things that are outside of core that become almost as important now should get similar love and care, for lack of a better word.
I'm wondering if this is something that should be brought up with the maintainers of the contrib module so that it wouldn't be something that comes. So just should we ask the maintainers of those contrib modules? Would it be the proper way?
So I
Okay.
guess the usability meetings occasionally look at contrib modules when things are brought to our attention. And I guess I just see it as a shift of emphasis, not really a change in policy, that contrib modules included in Starshot should get somewhat higher priority, and maybe even we should go out proactively and look at them. Ralph, go ahead.
Maybe just one way to distinguish between a core module and maybe a contrib module that is included in the Starshot might be, for core, you have the core gates, where those bugs have to be fixed more or less before a fix can go in. And maybe an idea would be for contrib modules included into Starshot that they could go in, that they could be used, and those bugs or recommendations should be fixed, but they shouldn't be a blocker. That could be a way to approach it, and less strict, and still would enable to iterate fast that way.
Yeah, and I think people like would want to. Sorry, Aaron, go ahead. I'll go after you.
I was going to say that I think it's an interesting conversation, and I agree with some of the points that have been raised, particularly like I think I understand where you're coming from, Offer, in that like how do we, I think what you're saying is like what is the role of the usability meeting, what is the role of like the usability gates, and I guess also accessibility, and how do we ensure that then because we're kind of blurring the lines between like what is traditionally Drupal core and what is like contrib here, and what are the gates? Like does Starship have to, for something to go into Starship, does it also have to meet those same gates? Which I would argue it probably does, but I think there's always going to be like I think there's always a compromise in some level. Like even the perfect I think even the perfect UX sometimes is like there's compromises somewhere. So like on a broad scale, I think if what's happened with Starshot, you know, if say a module like Path Auto, like okay, maybe I don't know, maybe if we looked at it, we would find some problems with it. But I think it's a net win. It's a net positive, you know, to have that in there. So I think when we approach things and we think about it, we should be looking at, overall, yeah, is the experience better by having the thing here? It might not be perfect, but like that's okay because you can iterate and improve on it. But as Benji said, maybe the role of these meetings is we have to expand our scope slightly and to put more of a focus on those modules that, as you said, have been sort of promoted.
And let me just, for the sake of the recording, mention the pages we've been looking at. So this one about Starshot is drupal.org/starshot. We've also been talking about the core gates, which is drupal.org/about/core/policies/core-change-policies/core-gates. And Ralph just posted a link to this issue. I guess there's a GitHub project for Starshot prototype. And issue 67 is to make our Starshot accessible, posted by Mike Gifford, and Ralph already commented on it. Go ahead, Offer.
Yeah, so my understanding from the meeting yesterday, my assumption is Starshot going to be very close to core, and you would have like a minimal recipe. Like it doesn't really bring many, but by default, at the minimal version of it. Recipes, I think, is where the success will be, where it will make things very popular. One of my points, similar to accessibility, I think people who create modules want them to be usable. I'm not sure if all of them know about this venue, that they can bring and maybe even ask questions or in consideration that we can perhaps help with just by having other minds that are from in different perspectives. So bring that also to the Starshot world, that just no longer is, hey, Drupal core is doing great and good luck to modules, and somehow bring more awareness so people know that we can make it better.
Yeah, Scott posted a link, and I think the point is we can see, at least in the prototype, just what modules are being suggested.
Yeah.
So what is that? About 20.
Including Gin theme and Gin toolbar.
Yes.
Which is, this is just a prototype. We don't know whose prototype this is. It's not necessarily a representation of what it would be.
Right. Wolfina Proxima is or Adam Globus Heineck, whatever his last name is. We know who that is.
Sorry, I do recognize this.
Looking at this, I actually need to look at usability of that smart date module for another reasons, at least.
I'm
So
sorry,
you want
which, smart date?
Smart date. So I need to be looking at that during the summer at least, because I'm using it on a project with non-technical users.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think you know, part of the idea, at least, of Starshot is to make core smaller and yet have something richer that that people can see to get an idea of Drupal's actual capabilities. And I guess if we were going to make core larger, I would vote for Path Auto as being in core. I'm not sure I would recommend any of these other
Meta
modules.
tag should definitely be core.
I'm sorry?
Meta tag should be core.
Meta
I would
tag.
vote 100% for meta tag to be core at any time.
Okay, that's reasonable. Web form is more complicated than I'd want to add to core. It's, of course, has its
Core should have a
uses.
form builder for general use case. Core should have a form builder. We have views as a query builder. We have nodes for building layouts. Building is what Drupal does, of course. It's inevitable. I think web form's inevitable.
Okay,
I hope it too.
but
my opinion.
But I guess the point of Starshot is that we no longer have to talk about bringing these into core. We can bring them into Starshot. But we just have one more minute left, and Aaron has something to say.
Yeah, I guess it was just kind of that was in that like I'm saying like this kind of blurs the lines between core and contrib because I think it seems like Drupal core, the idea is it could get to a point where it is just like the core APIs and things and maybe some very fundamental modules like Drupal core has been moving towards these like building block modules, whether it's workflow or other things like that. Trying to think of good examples. Workflow is a good one because like it's a module that other things build on top of, like whether it's content moderation or I'm sure there's other examples that use workflow. So with recipes and project browser, there's no longer this really clear divide. This is core, this is contrib. It's more about, I think we can start to really think about like what are the features that are needed and where those live. It is less important because, and arguably when they live in contrib in their own project space, they're able to iterate faster, which I think is a good thing. And it gives them their own like freedom and modules like forum and blog and vote and things. I can't remember if vote was a module core or not. Poll I think was all I was looking for. Can like now they're in contrib, they can iterate faster and build up their own smaller community that really cares about those things, and can really focus on those. So yeah, I think it's a good thing, but I think we need to shift our like how we think about these things to being less about this is core, this is contrib, and think this is a feature in the Drupal ecosystem, and this is a thing that we all use. So there will be an interesting shift for sure.
Okay, Ralph, we're already a minute over, so very quickly.
Yeah, quickly. Agree to Aaron, and just one brief addition and suggestion for maybe next week or the following, to talk about the whole extend page with basically recipes, how they are communicated to install and uninstall recipes, the extend itself with the list of modules, as well as the feature flag modules. There are many new aspects coming into core, and then also project browser in the context of the install and the install of recipe. The whole extend topic should be discussed, I think, because they are moving fast and to prevent some basically problematic directions.
Right, and if they're developed in contrib and then brought into core, then we have to be a little proactive about looking at their usability. Okay, thanks all. Yeah, we'll definitely be continuing these discussions. Quickly offer asked, did we look at recipes in the UX meeting? Not yet. All right. I agree with what Ralph's answered in the comments. So I'll be here next week. Hope you can all make it too.
Thanks all.